And I think there's a snobbishness with reading books. They are a bit outdated. They're a little bit like playing the spoons and tap dancing and the theatre. In that they were good once, but things have moved on.
The head's not quite on the right place. That's his little issue that he's got to work on for the moment.
My apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Look, I'm all for innovation, and I advocated putting a scrum half in the line out. It sounds great, but it's bollocks idea, really.
Hello and welcome to Under the Sticks, a podcast brought to you by Pro14 Rugby, where, as always, we will try to deliver half-baked opinions served up as real rugby analysis. My name is Andy McGeady, and with me today, we've just a three-man show. Very intimate, like a lockdown New Year. It's Paul Williams. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you doing? You okay?
Doing all right. I've a little more hair than I should because of a
misunderstanding
with my better half.
You do. It looks quite cool. I didn't want to mention it backstage, but I quite like the new hairdo.
It's all right. Before you joined us backstage, there was a lot of comments about my hair.
Right.
Sean Holley, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, good. Back on the exercise regime because there's no golf. I've been scrolling through my social media while I waited to come on, and England's gone into lockdown, and there's whinging palms everywhere. As the Aussie cricketers would say, we've been in lockdown for 3 weeks, Williams, haven't we?
Correct. We're halfway already. It's horrible. I must admit, lockdown 3 is the worst.
It's weird. Honestly, our cases are not good in Ireland. Like people are sort of looking at numbers all day long. No matter where you come from, it's on the news, whatever. It's only going one way, folks. So we are here to try and help us all through it. Bit of cheer on a Monday evening. Look back at the games. Hello to loads of people coming in straight away in the comment section.
That's right. Nothing else to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of people from Wales, funny enough. Michael Jenkins, Harley Worthy, Rugby Mum Glasgow, Happy New Year. Gregor Galway, Mauro DeMarco, still retaining our Italian contingent, even though Dean Budd has flown the nest back to New Zealand. My Little Piranha Fish, which is a good name. I like that. Name. Neil Robertson, Michael Jenkins, James Reid, Mac, hello. Get your comments in during the show. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to squeeze more of them towards the end of the show where we go through some general news and notes like what's going on with the Lions tour, any transfers in and out of the league, which you might have seen over the last day or so. Edinburgh fans look away for a while. But yeah, it's good. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about, there was a very, very, very big win last weekend, and I'm from Dublin. And even I was going, that's a great bloody win. Connacht came to Dublin and put an end to Leinster's very, very, very long winning streak. 26 games they had. We'll go through some of the stats around that because it is kind of remarkable. And we'll really, really talk about how good Connacht were on the day. And it wasn't a fluke. They've had this in them for a while, but they were very good. It was good to see. The away teams are finding their groove during COVID. This is something we touched on as a possibility a while back, a good while back when sports started coming back. We'll talk about that both in our sport and our championship here and in others. Our Ulster, the unbeaten Ulster, are they the favourites for a final? We'll talk about Ulster. I, for one, I'm always known to talk Ulster up.
Ulster.
What is Toby Booth building in Ospreys? We'll talk about the Wales games that there were over the weekend and the Scottish one.
Take long.
No.
Don't think it will. We do try and call it straight in this show, folks, and we will. Holly's Heroes from round 10. There's a few bright sparks there. And look, fire in your comments. As I said, we're going to move some of them a little more to the end of the show. But if they're really on point, we'll see what super producer Adam Redmond can fire in. So, gents, straight away, the games from last weekend, okay? We've touched on it there, right? We kicked off Friday, New Year's Day. We rang in the new year with two cracking Welsh derbies. Sean Holley, over to you.
He was there live, love him.
I've had to commentate, I've had to pundit, I've had to analyze all of these Welsh derbies, and they're supposed to bring the best out in each other, right? Welsh derbies, and admittedly, there's no crowds, and they do add something to derbies. I don't care what people say, but these ones seem to just brought the worst out in us. There hasn't been a lot of
30 more seconds on this before we move on to Scotland. That's all I'm giving you.
Well, I don't know if I can fill 30 seconds, if I'm honest. It's been dreadful. There's been a load of kicking, a lack of tries, a lack of endeavour and ambition, and we got to see more. We got to see more from them.
It was a down day for Wales because we've seen some real talent and some really good play, especially from Dragons, Scarlets, Blues. As we've seen better, just a bad day. Paul, anything you want to add before we move on?
No, only that. Sean's right that it looked like a deliberate kicking strategy from the beginning from all four. And it was really weird. And there were also masses of handling errors, which you don't normally associate, particularly with the Scarlets. So yeah, it was a very unusual weekend of rugby for the Welsh regions, but hopefully they've been put away now.
Now, and we are doing this deliberately, right? We're going to sort of move through worst wine to the best wine. Edinburgh, Glasgow, that had a chance of being 0-0.
Yeah, I really wanted it to be 0-0.
But I watched it, and it would have been a decent 0-0. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they went at it physically. When you watch a lot of rugby like I do, and you analyse it, and you watch it over again, you flick from game to game a lot, and you go for it, and then so you see a bit of a difference, and bang, there was a bit difference after the Welsh derbies in intensity, physicality, speed. However, they cancelling each other out, and that can happen in derbies. That does, and invariably it does happen in the Scottish one. They're very close normally, and Glasgow have slightly improved. Edinburgh have slightly dropped, so it wasn't a surprise really, but a bit of an arm wrestle. Yeah,
but there were some big hits in there. I do like to try and find a positive in stuff, and it was right. Ryan Wilson put some massive smacks in on Bill Matt. There was some interesting things in that match. I think Cockrell was a bit hard on his team. Actually, I quite enjoyed it.
Cocker's hard on people. No, I wouldn't be.
Are we mentioning the other miss in front of the goal again?
Go on.
From Brandon, he missed another kick in front of the post. And do you know what was awful? I was watching it on catch up, and I knew it was 0-0 till 50 minutes. So I watched the whole of the preparation, just going, "Oh my God, he's going to do this again!" And he did. It was bad. Poor bloke.
We did talk about that one before Christmas, and it is really unfortunate that a similar thing has happened. And we're not going to dwell on it because that would be mean. And this is still Christmas. In fact, this might still be December. We might just cancel January and go straight from December to February. I'm putting that on the table. Bennett and Zebri, this was a tidy little game, Paul. I enjoyed watching this.
Do you know what? It was a good game, and Zebra deserved the win. They had two lovely tries from Mauls. I'm becoming a bit of a Maul try expert now because everyone thinks I'm just a super rugby fanboy. So I'm all about the Mauls. Yeah, Zebra played really well. Boney and Maury defended well in midfield because Treviso again attacked pretty well from deep. I like Hayward and Ioane. They create a lot from deep, and they did that on the weekend. But it was a good win. I quite enjoyed that game actually. It wasn't a bad standard.
I think they're missing Bennett on like Barbini, is it? They're missing Dean Budd, yeah. But the number 8, like he carried 16 times, but he doesn't go anywhere. He carries on average 2.1 meters or whatever it is. So you have some puffs, and they got a lot of guys like that who have some puff, but they don't really, get the go forward because they had a lot of possession. They had plenty of the game. He says the 2 early tries was a bit of a shock to them, and Zebra were right at it, weren't they? They were up for it. So I
he doesn't look like an 8 either. That boy, does he? You can see just by looking at him. He doesn't look like one that he hasn't got the physique.
So then we got to Saturday late afternoon, Ulster Munster. This was a very, very big game. It had been teed up really nicely. And especially, may I say, with the announcement, with the change in competition that we talked about last time we were on. So we had that sort of emergency podcast on Christmas Eve, which was great fun. It felt like a nice thing to do, just to bash out a quick 30-minute pod, and we had the Rainbow Cup news. It was perfect. But that also meant a different kind of Guinness PRO14 season, where instead of having an extended playoffs, the winner of each conference goes into the finals. That means it makes everything different right now with a lot of must-win games. And Ulster Munster this was a big game for Ulster, Sean, and I think we saw them. 15-10 is kind of strange because Ulster were fairly dominant in this for a long time. Against, in fairness, and I have to be clear on this, Munster picked a team, and this happens around this time of year, but there was one carryover from the Claremont 15 that were played against, but they came and they're a talented group and they came to play.
Do you know what? And one thing I've learned in my long career in rugby is you never back against Munster. You know, no matter no matter who's in the jersey. So when I say that, you know, I like to look at the bookie stuff because they have algorithms. I'm like my analysis and my stats. They have algorithms, or the bookmakers, which they're always very, very close. They give Munster +6.
Really?
Before the game. And I'm looking at it like us, thinking, Ulster are playing well. They're at home. They got the guns. They got Leinster next week. I'm thinking, you know, this could be a bit more than that. You know, but I look at the Munster team, thinking, but you never back against them. You know, I've always learned that. I said that about the Clermont game, didn't I? And what was it? 8 overtime. Clock's red. Sweetenham gets the offload, and he's in. You know, you can never get away from him, and that's to their credit. That's years of embedded culture. And who knows that point and stopping. So it becomes a 4-1 then, doesn't it? A 3-point swing rather than a 4-0. And who knows where that might take them. So credit them. But both sides, Ulster are playing well. You know, to be fair to them, they're looking improving every week, I think.
So we're going to pause the Ulster chat there because we'll come back to that in terms of looking forward, right? But it was a good game. But I think Leinster Connacht was a very, very good game. It was just tidy stuff, and Connacht, that was a superb performance by anyone visiting the RDS because, you know, 35-24, Leinster got their fourth try very late on. There was a chance they could have got get a bonus point. It would have been a second losing bonus point. It would have been, I don't think they would have deserved it. Connacht were in control of this game for a lot of it. Paul, it was a good advertisement for the competition.
Well, I think Connacht are, in general, a really good advertisement for the competition because, you know, they're not the most highly funded or the deepest squads, but they play really attractive rugby and it's nicely balanced. That result, even though it is obviously hugely surprising, they've been playing really well for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So in that regard, it wasn't that surprising when you saw the side that Leinster put out. I thought Carty was fantastic. Daly and Arnold in midfield were ridiculous, man. You know, although there was a weird stat in there, which I noticed, that they had down that Daly had missed 6 tackles, which he didn't, because I've been through it. So I can only presume they've given him a few, you know, when he's gone out and then shepherded a player inside. But I thought they were fantastic. I thought Porch played really well and is looking arguably, you know, pound for pound, he's up in that sort of Callum Affoni bracket in terms of, you know, euro to pound in terms of the ability he's bringing. I thought they were fantastic. Really good performance and really happy, actually. It's a good thing for the league. I know Leinster fans won't be that happy, but, you know, just to get a result of that, it freshens things up, man. It was fantastic.
Sean, what's it like when you're trying to prep a team going to a team like Leinster on a run like that? You've brought lots of teams over the years to a team and a ground where it's like you're not going to win there no matter which 15 they put out. But Connacht looked from the very start as if they were going to do good things there.
Yeah. I think, you know, we've got an interview coming up soon with Andy Friend, and there's a couple of key hints in what he says, which I'll go through when we play it. But to answer your question, and you can either look at these situations and see them as opportunities, so a 26-match run, or let's go and try and get a losing bonus point, or, you know, let's put as Michael Checker once said to me, put a pusillanimous selection out. In other words, I still don't know what it means, but I think it means you're expecting to lose.
Yeah.
Then, you know, I you know, you see him as an opportunity to knock them off their block. You know, all runs have to come to an end. If you look at it, you know, the game, you know, did they lack having a certain amount of games with certain players? The team that they picked, you know, Connacht's form, they had a couple of setbacks, but just the way Connacht went out. I think Connacht stunted Edinburgh's start of the season. I watched them up in Murrayfield. They blitzed Edinburgh, right? And almost Edinburgh were like, where did that come from? And if you remember, Caelan Blade scored a couple of tricky tries. They put some kick throughs, remember?
Yeah.
And it's just smacked Edinburgh in the face, and they haven't woken up from it. Will this happen to Leinster? Got a lot of players to come in, but blimey, what a performance! They were well worthy of it, because in our WhatsApp group, I was saying, you watch Leinster come back here, and it looked like they came out second half, and then McGrath went over, and you thought, oh, blimey, I think they beat 30-odd defenders in the whole game. They have that capability, but Connacht held on, and the interception obviously was the icing on the cake at the end.
No, it was really good, and really let's tee up that Andy Friend interview now that you just referred to.
Yeah, it's very pleasing, mate. I know. We were up here a couple of years ago and we had a 17-point lead, which managed to get swallowed up in the last 11 minutes. So it's very, very hard to win here. I just thought our blokes tonight, they were gallant from the...
So that's the first thing that I picked out there. I think, was it cut short then? But a few years ago, he said, we coughed up a 17-point lead. So you use past experiences. They knew that they could go to the RDS and compete if they were on their mettle, So there's that message. He's clearly used that in the build-up in the week, And the other thing he says later in the piece is around, feeling like you can go there and win. That's a big thing. I'm lucky. I've been there with teams where you feel there's a huge difference in the feeling of your group, knowing that you can go there and win.
Yeah.
Dare I say, the teams that I was lucky enough to be involved with. And then you look at the record of the Blues at the RDS, they go there almost feeling that they have no chance, on average 35 to 40 points put against them. So they go there not believing. There's a massive difference in your group, and Connacht hit the ground running, and that was key.
So we'll just bring in the second part of that interview now.
Very, very hard to win here. I just thought our blokes tonight, they were gallant from the start. They threw everything at it, and to get the win is very pleasing.
You mentioned pre-match that you were looking for a response and a reaction from your players, considering you were coming into this on the back of 3 consecutive defeats. What are you most pleased with from your players in terms of performance? Yeah,
listen, to come up here and to believe you can win, that takes a lot of positive mindset, and our blokes did. They believed they could win, and not many teams come here and win it. So I love the fact that they did have that belief. I love the fact that right from the first whistle they threw everything into it. We said be decisive and trust your systems and trust the fact that we deserve to be out here on that footy field, and they did that. We had a lot of young blokes out there today too, and just to see their energy was brilliant.
Looking ahead now, in terms of belief that you mentioned there, what will this win do to the group? Because it is a shortened season and you are chasing Munster in conference speed. They dropped points earlier on, so it's a big win in that way. Yeah, it is a big win. We said at the front end of the game too, not only is it important to win in your conference, but it's important just to get wins and to put a stop to some losses. So for us, it is a pleasing win. We got Munster next week though, so they'll be hurting after that one last or there before our game.
So I think there's a lot of stuff there. Some of it is, Sean, some of it is coach speak, right?
Yeah.
But what else do you take from that?
Well, like I said, they knew that they could go there. They believed they could go there and win. That's massive. That comes out of the earlier piece where he says we bombed a 17-point lead in the last few minutes, few years back. So he's used that. He's put some freshness into the team after a couple of defeats. It takes a long time to. I've said this before, my boys. To go to Leinster, to go to Munster, to go to Ulster, it takes a long time to edge closer and you've got to harness those experiences. And then when you finally get over the line. Isn't it brilliant? There's no better feeling for him. You can see how chuffed he is, and it's great for us. It's just. I think it's fantastic the way they approach it, and that's the only way you're going to beat Leinster is the way they just went out and embraced it and went for it. And look, my final point before Paul can have a chat is We cannot go, and Leinster fans cannot go now and say we were missing Doris and we were missing so and so. We've been lauding all those buggers all year.
Exactly.
Right? How their
Yeah.
strength in depth and their run without the so and so and this. So it is what it is. You look at the Connacht team on paper and you think, Leinster are going to win that anyway at the RDS.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But I'm talking about belief. At the one player who looked like they knew they were was Jack Carty. Right in the last 15 minutes, he was so calm. That's normally when a 10 goes to bits, isn't it? And he put in weird kicks. He's not missing touchlines. He was just rolling little balls into corners. It was amazing. It was really good to watch.
Stuart Farmer, statistician in chief for a number of different places, including for the Guinness PRO14. Jack Carty's 25 points equal the biggest ever points tally scored against Leinster in professional rugby.
There we go.
Wow.
Look at that.
This was the previous one was Stuart Lang for Ulster in the Inter-Pro Championship in 1997. So all of what we currently hold dear is professional rugby.
Wow.
It's that kind of performance, and he was fantastic. And I love watching Jack Carty play, Paul, because he does stuff which is unorthodox, and I know you like that kind of player too.
Yeah, and the thing is with Jack Carty, he can be great for a month, then he has a couple of patchy weeks, and then he's great for another month. But I thought he was great, and the other player who really impressed me was Quinn Roux, because if you think, he's one of the lesser statesmen of the locks in Ireland now, isn't he? There's a lot of boys sneaking up in front of him, and he was immaculate from the first second, smashing rucks. Not just, putting bodies on floors, putting them through the floor. It was fantastic. He was really, really good.
Conor Oliver was good at 7.
Yeah.
We've lauded the Leinster back row and the various permutations of it. But he was immense. He's one of those young guys that Andy Friend mentioned, put a lot of tackles in, ball carries, a couple of turnovers. Honourable mentions, Andy, for 2 of my love childs. Ryan Baird at 6.
Yeah.
Very good game. Scott Penny, now I think he scored 9 tries now.
Yeah.
So they are still functioning, and they got a lot more to come. But let's take nothing away from Connacht. Brilliant. Delighted.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They were really good. And again, the if anyone hasn't seen the clip, if you weren't watching the game in the second half when you did those little very low skiddy kicks that were like bananas, it's just
they were like almost really good Dan Parks types kicks, weren't they?
Exactly. Oh, Sam Davis does a lot of those.
Yeah.
They're like low bananas and they kick right on the tip.
To coin an Andy McGeady phrase, it was a real outside half shithousery performance.
Proper shithousery.
Great kicking, chip and chase, weird kicks to touch, interception try.
Yeah.
It had it all,
That's a great. Yeah. It really was. It was like, if you want to score now, you try picking that ball up. Let's doing that in the corner and go 80 meters. Let's see you.
Oh, love it. Absolutely brilliant. So let's talk about Leinster's run. So what did Connacht break up now? Connacht broke a 26-game winning run in the Guinness PRO14. The next best winning run in the history of the championship was 14 from Munster back in 2011. So 14 versus 26, like that's a huge gap. From first to second. Of those, here's some honourable mentions, right? So Michael Bent, who many will know as the man parachuted into an Ireland squad before he'd done anything with Leinster back in the day. He appeared in 21 of those 26 games, and he made the most starts with 17. So there's a player who, he's getting on now, proved himself a really, really valuable part of the Leinster furniture now. Most playing minutes, very good international investment, Scott Fardy.
Obviously, talk about value for money.
Yeah, always a lot. Always. 7 different captains. Fardy skipped the most with 9. Top point scorers. So this goes straight to Sean's point about nobody complain about players who were out, because here's the top point scorers. 128 Ross Byrne, 104 Harry Byrne, 65 Dave Carney, 55 James Lowe, 46 Kieran Frawley. So with Ross Byrne, Harry Byrne and Kieran Frawley, there's those 3 different 10s being used as part of the 315s that we have talked about on this pod. There's just such depth there, and they have depended on them, and they has navigated this streak. Won't drain it, but they scored 896 points, 122 tries. They conceded 327 with 42 tries conceded. 16 try bonus points in those 26 with a record equaling run of 7 in a row. But it's now over. Congratulations, Connacht.
But what you're doing in that is just amplifying how big a win it is by Connacht. So, all hail Connacht. One of the stat in there, not sure if you mentioned, they used 7 different captains, didn't they? 7
different captains, yes. Scad Ferdy skippered the most with 9, but yeah.
They grow in leadership, it's a blip, and it's probably a blip, and in a perverse way that Leo Cullen is probably thinking, well, I'm not too disappointed that's happened. Yeah, it'd been great to go a season unbeaten or whatever, but he's got something to talk about in training now.
Yeah,
and there is something to be said about, especially when you've got so many young players. If you have so many young players coming through, and this would stand for Ireland as well, if you have super successful club sides, this is a good thing. Let's have no doubt about that. But if you have too many games where the young players are not tested at the end of games, that stands to you too, Sean.
Yeah. Mark Freeman says on here 2 intercepts gives 14 points. I don't care. It's rugby. I'll explain one of the intercepts now, and it's nothing to do with luck. It's poor play by Leinster. But anyway, I forgot my train of thought now because I was getting angry then. I know we're not going to preview and look ahead, but Ulster now are going great guns. Here's the quandary. Do Ulster look at that and think, oh, yes, they're fallible. We have a chance here now. We're going to take them on. Or are they thinking, trust Connacht now to go and rattle the cage like, the week before. It's going to be a great game. Leinster Ulster.
It should be game of the season.
Can we talk about Mr. Daly, one of your boys for this week, Sean?
Yeah. Just this is the try, so I don't know how slow Adam can play this for us, but it shows the inexperience of the 10 that comes on. All right, because this ball is one at the front of the line out. So Ad, if you could go back to the start, I know. Sorry, I'm getting all technical, but it's one at the front of the line out, and he still stands in his starting position. So this is a long pass, right? He's off the bench, so he needs to understand the Connacht are blitzing. Look at the guy. You can see 10 meters from the ref to the halfway line. Daly's way onside, right? So this is a long pass. It's a long time in the air. When the ball's went to the front, he needs to adjust and get closer and get in motion. Right, that's one way to get at the blitz. And then he tries to give another relatively long pass, and Daly's got it. That's a poor tackle coming in from the winger, and he shows great pace and power to get over. So you can see, he turns and looks. It's a long pass that he's received. Daly's already in his face. So it's great blitz defense from Daly, and it's poor detail from the young 10, Hackshaw.
He just threw that like it was predetermined, didn't he? It's coming to me, then it's going there.
Can I quote Sean Holley from the group chat during that game?
Yeah, go on. I know what you're going to say.
Sean Holley, wow, he's a mile offside. VAR, gap. He's actually a mile onside.
He's a mile onside.
Yeah, he was. I checked it. I went to VAR, and he was a mile on.
Yeah, he played so well.
Just a little technical point though for young 10s, I'd always used to get my 9 and 10. They have to know the line-out calls. So straight away, he'd hear the call, or he should know the call, right? As soon as he knows that's going to the front, he needs to move in and get in motion. Otherwise, that's going to happen.
Yeah, in fairness to Leinster, and this is one where I'm going to go, someone out there is screaming, Johnny Sexton only lasted 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Right? He did only last 25 minutes, but... Yeah. Leinster have about 50,000 players who have contributed to that 26-game winning streak. So we are going to officially on this pod say that does not matter when it comes to Leinster, right? So we're teed up now. We're going to come back to Ulster. No, let's do the Ulster thing now, right? So here's the top of Conference A. After that weekend's games, Ulster 46 points, 10 from 10. Excellent, and they've played some really good stuff. Leinster played 8, 36 points. So it's up to them now. Yeah, and it's not really in their control now. So we've got that big game coming up this weekend, Leinster Ulster. Ospreys are way back on 18, and we'll come to Toby Booth in a while. Excellent. So we got that up on screen now. So it's Ulster, Leinster, Ospreys up in the good positions in Conference A. And in Conference B, this is why it's a very interesting result, that game in the RDS, because Munster, until that game, had looked absolutely home and hosed.
Yeah.
But now, Munster and Connacht have played 8 each. Munster have 33, Connacht have 25, and this weekend, Connacht welcome Munster to the sports grounds.
Oh my God.
It becomes very, very interesting, because if Connacht did something very interesting, yes, it is on, my friends. It is on. And Scarlett, we do mention.
Why can't they? Oh no, I'll ask Paul that question. And why can't they, Paul?
Why can't they what? Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Paul. Bet against Munster.
I get the question. Never bet against Munster.
Or Crusaders. Add Crusaders to that list. Yeah, they're that I can't. I think there's no reason they can't beat them there, though. I think Connacht could win that. I'm hoping they can.
Yes. Gosh, yes, of course. Off the back of that, yes, of course they can.
You know,
great games to look forward to. Great games.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. So right now, knowing what we know about the league tables as they stand, the question we've asked at the start of the pod is: are Ulster the final favourites? So Leinster have been on this huge run. Ulster have now they're now settled in. 10 from 10.
Well, I still say no, right? Ulster men are one of my best mates is an Ulster fan, but you just said that, Andy, it's not in Leinster's hands anymore. Actually, it is, because even though they got 2 games in hand, 10 points, they play Ulster. So it is in their hands if they beat Ulster this week.
With a BP.
No, it doesn't matter with the BP. They'll still have 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
They'll still have 2 games in hand. So let's say it's a 4-1 win for Leinster, right? Which Ulster are favourites now. But let's say Leinster win 4-1. That takes them 3 points closer. There's 7 points with 2 games in hand.
Yes.
So it is in their hand.
I hate when Sean picks me up on a point like that.
You've got to remember.
Don't win 6 major trophies and a Sony Academy Award without being detailed.
Do you know, I learned about 6 weeks into doing this pod, don't take Carly on with factual detail. He won't win.
I'm really disappointed in myself, Sean. I've let down the show. Paul, I apologise.
Okay.
Freudian slip.
We've all been there, and
yeah, it's not good.
Right. Set up a support group. I've been out-facted by Holley.
But they got to play each other again, though, haven't they?
They do. So look, there's a couple there. So basically, I was talking absolute horseshit, to use a term of the pod. Right? It is Leinster can do all they want, and in Hollytown, Leinster are still favourites for the title and in the books. Away teams. So here's a little stat. This would seem unusual.
This is brilliant, by the way, this stat. I love this.
Away teams in the Pro 14 this season have won 27 from 52 games. That's 52% winning percent.
That's unbelievable.
That is very unusual, right? And I went through, hold on, I'm being pulled up for a fact check. What's my fact check?
We've just covered it off.
Oh, it's okay. We've covered it. Away teams and against Pro 14 have won 52% of games. Right. This is something we went right back to the start of COVID. We said it's a possibility that this could happen because of the lack of crowds.
Yeah,
okay?
I agree.
And we touched on at the start of this pod, which was you lose something from the game. But the thing I want to get into is what you actually lose if you're a home team. Okay, because Paul, I know you wrote about it for your column this week. You touched on this we can mention Rugby World. They're friends of the show.
Yeah, it's all part of the rugby family.
Absolutely. So what you touched on this. You think it's really important that fans really feel as if they're part of this, and we miss them.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to remember post-COVID that I put in the column, that you're not just a tick in the have they bought a pint in a programme. And, you know, if you turn up and shout and scream, don't give the ref grief. That's not what I'm suggesting. But you do matter. You're not just some weird little, oh, you're the 16th man on the slogan. If you turn up and shout, your team's got a better chance of winning. So, and I don't think a lot of supporters are aware of that. And they wouldn't have been unless we were chucked into this weird, forced global experiment. So it's, that's a real positive to come out of COVID. Probably one of the only ones.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So this is something that we knew before. It just wasn't obvious to people because we always had crowds. But they've done research on this in the past. You know, they've done it with official training in sports where they've said, okay, let's test your decisions when we're playing you a match and you're sitting in front of a monitor. What's the call? What's the call? What's the call? You're there with an assessor, and let's do that with no sound. And what's the call? What's the call? What's the call? And consistent.
Oh, really?
The decisions are more correct when there is no sound at all. Okay.
Wow.
So I remember reading that book, Scorecasting, years ago. It was, let's say, about 10 years ago. It came out, and they went into some of them. I found it absolutely fascinating. This was mainly concentrating on American sports, but a lot of the research had been done on things like soccer. And I went back looking at some of this because there was a research paper by Thomas Doman about home field advantage in the Bundesliga.
Right.
So they didn't have a chance to test any games with crowds or not crowds because this was pre-COVID, so everything has a crowd. But what's different about stadiums, especially in places like Germany? Some stadiums have running tracks, so you're much further away from the fans. And again, the same thing happened. You have much more decisions given more to the home team the closer the fans are to the field. Yeah, so the 16th man, you know, it's like it's a real thing, guys.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something I studied way back in '91 at Loughborough University. Home advantage is a thing. You know, there is a lot of research. It might only be 60 to 40%. It doesn't matter. That 10% in big moments,
massive,
right? Particularly, you think of officials, and you talk about close to the touchlines, Andy. You think of assistant referees now. That are, you know, even things like TMOs, you know, when they know there's a viewing public or they're close to the ground. But yeah, definitely think that under a high ball crowd, I used to play fullback a lot, and under the high ball where there was a reasonable crowd, I was thinking, you know, they would make a massive difference. It's probably the heckle or whatever. You know, I'm Scarlets, Ospreys, derbies. You know, you would have vociferous. You'd have fans in the car park when your bus arrived, intimidating, and the other way. You know, back down at the Liberty. So it definitely has an impact, and those results show it for me. You know.
Should referees play with ear defenders to block out the crowds? Well, as long as they all wear glasses, lads. That's what I think.
That's the first start.
But it's a real thing, and it's good to see because we do feel as if something's been lost, and there's something lost if you're a viewer by not having crowds at the games. We know that, we kind of all feel it. If you're a player, and I know earlier on in the show, I think Christian Hyde pulled up a thing and said, yeah, we all played in front of empty touchlines starting off. Yes, we did. And, you know, people still gave the referee a bollocking or whatever. And if they made a decision to the home team, they probably just wanted to get out and not get thrown into the back of a boot, you know?
Yeah, but the point is that these are our current players are players that have played in front of big crowds.
Yeah.
And now they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference there. Can I give you a couple of Holley bugbears while I'm on a roll here?
Definitely.
About no crowds. I think they're really teeing me off now. I know a lot of coaches and that are starting to say that you've got to create your own atmosphere now as teams, right?
Yeah.
They all this whoop and backslapping when you win a turnover, and everybody's wingers running in and kissing tight heads because they've won a bloody scrum. It's got to stop. That is shitehousery. That is a load of rubbish for me, and I think it's unsportsmanlike behaviour. We never had that in rugby. You get on with it, you know. Yellow card them or penalise them for all that. It's turning into an NFL we've sacked the quarterback. That's what it's turning into for me.
Yeah.
And the second thing is the subs are getting involved. The replacements. In their long coats and hoods, they're running on when they score a try. Get off the field. Get in the stand. You only come out and warm up and you stay off the field. That's down to the officials and the organisers. They've got to keep them off. Get them off.
I don't even like them warming up on the back of the field. I don't think you should be on the pitch at all. When we used to play in Gowerton, I didn't used to like practicing on the... You shouldn't be on the field. It's ridiculous.
I do. I think there's probably two things there. The one I definitely agree with you on is not having the subs warming up in the in goal. Now, not every stadium has an in goal area big enough to have, space for guys to warm up, and they do need to warm up. Not saying they shouldn't, right? But Colin Gallagher, Holly is right.
I like him.
Good judge of character, Sean. Yeah.
You can do shuttles on the side of the pitch. You haven't got to do a 7-man backs drill behind the post. You've already warmed up pre-match. Just do some shuttles and get on.
The one I don't like, Paul, is when you've got a team scores a try after a series of phases. Maybe it's near the post, and suddenly, all of the subs are joining in the celebration. Yeah, that's where I think, honestly, I would be in favour of a team yellow for that, a warning and then a team yellow if something like that happens again, because only bad things can happen if you're an opponent there and you've got even more players. You're pissed off after conceding a try, and you've got all these people coming in, as you say, Sean, whooping and hollering, and they're not even on the pitch. I
won't even name the player who did it on the weekend, but they went down to 7 in the pack, and one of the centres went onto the open side, and they won the penalty. And then he went up and tapped his tight heads on the after they won the penalty. And I was like, my God Almighty, you've only ever been in one scrum in your life. Exactly.
I honestly. So if the ref gives a penalty, did the test judges run on and start back slapping him because he's given us a penalty?
Can I have I think basically all of rugby has ruined it for James Lowe. James Lowe did it, and it was funny. He's the
biggest back slapper you've ever seen.
Yeah, big on that.
Yeah, Williams. I won't say his name, but I'll ID him in detail. Just write his name down and hold it up on the show, right? Yeah, look, we've got lots of comments coming in and stuff like that. There's Harley Worthy. Go back to the home advantage thing. Harley Worthy. It helps explain just how much of an advantage a full principality is for Wales. It does. It's a thing because, and we're not. There's something I haven't made clear actually. In all of this officiating, it's almost certainly not a voluntary thing. It's not a conscious decision that an official is making, that he's saying, I want to make these people happy. It's just like, they spotted something. That means the thing I thought I saw was the thing I saw, as opposed to simply trusting your own eyes and nothing else.
We are human beings. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, but if any of you watched Gerwyn Price last night in the darts, he nearly lost it with nobody there. Yeah. So imagine if it was, he might have responded differently to it, but I don't think so. It would have been worse. And I've said it on the show before, that 30 points to 3, where Wales defeated Stuart Lancaster's team, stopped them winning the championship, Wales won the championship. It was won at the anthem. I was there, mate. It was won at the anthem. I could see the body language under the post of England. A lot of young players. And so let's go back to Guinness PRO14. If we do get crowds and in the Rainbow Cup, some of these young players who've been playing well in empty stadia and this, that, and the other, they might react differently when there's big crowds, in big moments. You never know.
That's right.
Yeah. Never know.
Okay, so let's go back to Guinness PRO14. Toby Booth, we slagged off with the Welsh derbies at the start of the show. We were pretty firm. If you came in late, we were pretty hard on him. But Toby Booth might be building something there, Sean, or is that Ospreys fans looking for anything at all?
Yeah, I saw something in the Blues game, not so much in the Scarlets game, but I definitely saw his stamp. I've seen Toby's stamp come through, and I've started to see a bit of Brock James' stamp in the Blues match. To go back a step, spoke a lot to Ryan Jones, who was involved in the recruitment of Toby at the Ospreys. And, he apparently was very big on getting back to the identity of the region, something that, myself and many others spent a long time building, and it takes a long time. And he's absolutely right. Okay, so There's an evidence of that. A good defence, a decent kicking game, a good set piece. There's your building blocks to start. And what will come next is being difficult to beat, and then recruitment of key personnel. That's going to be very, very important, because right now we're not seeing enough, because they don't have good enough forward ball carriers.
Yeah.
And there's certain positions, like in the centre, they don't have enough quality and depth, in my opinion, to be creative enough. And that's what I'm sure they know that, and they'll work on that. But we are seeing a rejuvenated George North. We've seen Tipuric play fantastic. Depth at hooker. Set piece and scrum, very good. Maul, couple of tries. Defensive mauls, good. Adam Beard playing better. So, yeah, opposition wasn't great, but I am seeing progress.
Okay. Holly's heroes, the rest of them from round 10. Touched on Tom Daly. Who else are we looking at now today?
I thought Ethan McElroy,
he was good.
excellent. Tom Daly, yeah, great. George North, I mentioned already. Conor Oliver, I mentioned. Now, the Scarlets game against the Dragons was an absolute kick fest. There were 81 kicks in the game. Right, 2 tries in the last 5 minutes, basically. But one shining light was Callum Mahoney. Paul mentioned him earlier. He's been a good signer. He carries the ball. He scores this try because the Scarlets score most of their tries off first phase. So once they got into this position, now I don't know what Dragons are doing defending with Ashton Hewitt in the left-hand corner and Tavis Noyle in the 5, but it leaves Josh Lewis the 10 a lot to do. They've driven a few lineouts, and therefore Harrison Keddy and then the guy next to him, Aaron Wainwright, they go for the drive. Now, what should happen, to my mind, is the young second row Joe Davis. He's done his first job. Now he should come around the back of the tail and check off for any back peels before joining in the maul. He fails to do that. Soon as it releases there, Keddy has got his head in the maul. He can't get out. Ashton Hewitt and Tavis Noyle. Look, there's 4. Yeah. Dragons players 5. There's a couple of decoys that have happened. Gareth Davis and Tom Pridey have flashed down that short side. But now, all they're trying to create is a one-on-one Callum Mahoney against Josh Lewis. And what do? As we run it on, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Nigel Owens runs a good blocking line. Have you seen how Keddy? See Joe Davis now? He doesn't know where he is. No man's land. Yeah. He should have covered round the back as a do next thing. And Nigel Owens runs the blocking line. And the other good thing about that, Nigel Owens forgot his yellow cards.
That was brilliant.
That was great.
Moment of the match.
My favourite bit, though, is that he still showed a no card. This. It's so funny. Oh, I love Nigel Owens.
So, yeah, Callum Mahoney.
Makes sense.
I thought WP Nell was excellent in the scrum for Edinburgh, made a massive difference. And Luca Bigi, the hooker for Zebra. And I think the others I mentioned, the honourable mention, obviously, for Jack Carty, who was fantastic.
Fischetti played well for Zebra too. Lou said he's a bit like Gethin Jenkins. He jackals so much. He really is a good player.
He was in my team of the week, head of Schoolman. And obviously, some Ulster players. Billy Burns deserves a mention. If Jack Carty hadn't played so well, Billy Burns would have been up there.
Yeah, good, wouldn't he?
Boy McElroy and Jacob Stockdale. Now, this try, Stockdale, there's a great overs line, but it's the good and the bad of Jacob Stockdale. So if we watch this now, he has to run this, what we call overs line, and in to out. Otherwise, and it's a great pass, because the pass gets him on the overs. Have a look at this. So we see how he's turning out now and running outside the defender? Yeah. Lovely. But then the bad. Oh, my God, what's the bad? Look at the pass.
Is absolutely horrendous. And
that
is brilliant to take it in.
That is brilliantly well, because that is just a simple execution, and he nearly gets so wrong. But great try.
Can I stall you there though? Because I do think that some of the angles that we got, and it's no fault of the broadcasters or anything, the Hume to Stockdale was deceptively simple, because there's actually a lot going on with that pass, how it is delivered, that gets Stockdale to that place, because it removes a defender from the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hume himself has to sort of square up a little bit to be a threat there. right, to commit that defender. And now, look at the eyes on the outside defender. He's lost Stockdale at this point. So Stockdale knows at which point to run his overs line. So all it needs now is this pass to send him on his way. And it does beautifully. Look, as he's been tackled, Hume, look.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But
do you know, this might be controversial, but I think Hume is going to give Ringrose a bit of a run for his money in the next 12 months. I think he's a really, really good player, that boy Hume.
Well, Ringrose is pretty special.
I know. That's why I knew he wouldn't agree, but I wanted to say it anyway.
I haven't disagreed. I just said Ringrose.
Okay, if we throw enough darts, Williams,
Get one of them.
we allowed Holley at one point, right?
Exactly. Will it a 140 somehow?
On you, mate. I'm getting easier on you.
There's some great chat in the there's great chat in the comment section about what Leinster's first choice back row should be. That's good.
Sit for a decade.
Gary Ringrose's place is safe for a decade, says absolutely non-biased producer.
To go back to Ulster, and Mark Freeman says Peel's influence. Duane Peel has really developed at Ulster, and they're scoring a lot of tries through their backs, through wide play, through first phase, and that is Peely's influence. He'd be a sad loss to Ulster.
Yeah. And can I think the way their support lines are fantastic. So we've seen a lot of Ulster tries where you see the ball go out and then back in, and there's lots of players running really smart lines, and not just it's great to watch. Long may it last. Okay, we're going to go through a couple of other things. Okay, here we go. Keith Murray, how about Hume at 12, Ringrose at 13? I'd say someone like Robbie Henshaw would have a word about that, but we'll see. We're not going to spend the whole show talking about Ireland, because we could get to play it again. Few things to get through. We started the show talking about COVID because of lockdown, but even before, the new lockdowns have been announced in Scotland and in England and Ireland. We could get more stuff coming in soon. Who knows? The Lions are examining their position when it comes to what's going on this summer, 2021 tour. Position seems to be, Paul, that this tour will go ahead if the fans can be in the stadium. And if you're seeing the numbers coming out of South Africa, wow, we need some hope here.
Yeah, do you know, I think all things being doable and without there being too much of a loss, I'd move it. I think it's too good to risk and it's too good to dilute. That's my opinion, but it doesn't work like that, and I understand.
I totally agree with you, mate. I totally agree with you. Yeah, all this, shenanigans about bringing South Africa over and Japan, playing it in France. That's not what the Lions is about. It needs to be in South Africa. I don't care if it's next year. They need to do it like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think, lots of other things have been delayed and moved around. If it was up to me, I'd move the Six Nations, bang that in the summer in the Lions slot, and then kick the Lions forward 12 months. But I always see things in a very overly simplistic way sometimes, but that's what I do.
No, that's because you're a marketeer. Like, make the decision. We'll brand it later, and that's fine. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's say it. I'm of the opinion. Let's say it's happening like this, and then we'll worry about how it's happening in the morning.
Wow, you know Boris Johnson.
Exactly.
The Six Nations that you reference, it is due to begin on February 6th. Yeah. That is a very short amount of time away.
It is.
And that looks...
the two beautiful things of, I think if they move it now, it does two things. One, it gives them a valid excuse to try the experiment that everyone has been talking about for about 10 years. Shall we try springtime rugby? Right, so you can do it without saying, you haven't messed anyone or effed anybody over any of the unions. You've done it because we were forced. And it's a great way to see, A, does it improve the rugby? B, does it mess around with cricket seasons, whatever it might be? And C, it solves the COVID issue. It's a perfect time to move it. I'd make the call in the morning, just bang it forward to the end of May.
I think, but there is an order of how this happens. You can't move the Six Nations until the Lions tour.
Exactly, yeah.
Or postponed, rather, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think we're going. I'm hearing that this is going to be pretty imminent. That we're gonna have a 12-month postponement. But I haven't heard anything about the Six Nations. But wouldn't it make sense to plonk it there in the summer?
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine a Six Nations weekend
Cardiff.
in Dublin in July or Cardiff in June?
No.
I mean, it would just be ridiculous.
These are the things that give me a little bit of hope. Like those weekends that we haven't had for so long.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we put up with all the hardship for, just to have that sense of normality and randomness with people back. So you're not looking at a Netflix show and going, wow, that guy's sitting right beside your man.
Yeah, he looks, yeah.
So while we're talking about those kind of fixtures, though, we did talk in the last show about the Rainbow Cup and stuff like that. So, look, we can't give you any information here. I, hand on heart, am asking the same questions about anyone else. I will say that I don't think that's dependent on crowds, much less so than the Lions Tour. But we are dealing with a lot of different jurisdictions when it comes to sports and health and humans, and we're just going to have to see what the various parties can decide over the next few months. But as with everything over the last 10 months, we will see what is the best that we can all do. We'll say if the Lions Tour is moved to 22, you're backing on to a World Cup in 23. And do you know what? If that happens, lads, we'll get on with it.
Yeah, it happens.
Whatever.
Sorry, it happens. Get on with it.
Yeah.
A couple of moves, Reece Priestland. According to Alex Bywater, he's gone from Bath to Cardiff Blues. That hasn't been confirmed since this afternoon, has it? But I'm going to talk about it anyway.
It hasn't been confirmed, so I won't say anything. But I think it would be a good move. Let's put it like that.
Well, Jared Evans still 25, so he would act as a bit of a mentor to him.
It's kind of that James Hook role when he went back to the Ospreys but he's a bit younger than Hook, isn't he? In that role. But yeah, I think it'd be a good move. You'd have Jared at one and then Reece Priestland to back up. There's a lot of complicated things going on at the Cardiff Blues.
Just another thing, good to see Gareth Hanscom was jogging today alongside Alan Wynne-Jones training. Yep. That's great news. I wish him all the best. Old chicken. And Harley Worthy is ahead of us, boys. Super Rugby, A-Tour fixtures are out. Look at McGeady. Look at his face. Look at his face.
No. Super Rugby Aotearoa, New Zealand, hold firm. Stay the course. We are going to need you guys.
We will need you.
Whether our rugby up here is going ahead or not. And look, elite sport is continuing. Yeah. We'll get there. They'll be postponed to continuing, but you know what? We could be going through some dark days of lockdown yet. We need those early morning starts with a bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
More moves. No budget for watch along as you can do. Thanks.
Look at that. We've just been given a HR message there live.
You know what? A couple of cans of Guinness and a T-shirt and we'd do it, wouldn't we?
That's good. So this is now going to be an 8:30 drinking watch along.
Drinking session, not sponsored by Guinness.
I said at the start of the show, Edinburgh fans look away for a while. Duane Vandermeer, this was rumoured a few weeks back.
Class.
Absolutely correct. Duane Vandermeer is not leaving Edinburgh. You bastard.
Adam.
And on to the darts.
And on to the darts, yeah. Oh, man. He's a good sign. What a good signing, though.
Oh, man. He's going to... Worcester, you're going to love him.
You are going to love him.
I'll tell you what. The Guinness PRO14.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I got to be honest, mind, right? I hate seeing signings like this. Why would you go to Worcester? I've got two of my real good mates coaching, Jonathan Thomas, Matt Sherrod, but
yeah,
do you know what that is? That's a big box of cash.
I know, but are you saying that he can't get a big box of cash anywhere else? This guy's an animal,
Yeah.
This guy, he could play for Claremont.
He's an elite signing, isn't he? An elite that he could play, like you say, he's top 3, top 4.
You think, he's going. Oh, right, well, okay. He maybe wants to have a new challenge. He wants to play for a big club, challenge for European honours. Where's he going? Worcester.
Yeah. But Worcester have a habit of signing players like that. They spend an awful lot of money on one wing.
Yeah, like
Or
Rico
they'll
Gia.
be-
Remember they went to Rico Gia years
I
ago?
was going to say Rico Gia. Or they'll buy a full back for like 500 grand. Like,
Yeah.
didn't Latham end up at Worcester?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Right? There we go. And then, then they haven't got any locks. So it's
Yeah.
In
that
fairness,
sort of that sort
they
of
got
club.
very good value out of the Rico Gear signing because there was a lot more of them than there used to be. So,
Good point.
Yeah.
who are they talking about?
Finlay
Just
Chadwick.
joined, says Finlay Chadwick. Finlay, I'm not allowed to talk about that signing anymore.
I will.
because
It's Duane Vandermeer, Finlay, from Edinburgh to Worcester. Would you believe?
Okay,
Yeah.
now we're moving to the darts because what's the rugby link? What's the rugby link to the new world champion of the darts from Wales, Sean Holley?
Gerwyn Price played for Cross Keys. He was a hooker. He was a good player, Gerwyn. He played for Neath. He won Welsh Premiership titles, Welsh Cup titles. And we were looking at him at the Ospreys. I'm not just saying it now, but he was so unfortunate that we had so many good hookers around his time. With Hugh Bennett, Mevin Davis, Barry Williams, Richard Hibbard. He was so unlucky. And so he went to try and get into the Dragon squad. And I think he played a couple of games for Glasgow Warriors, didn't he?
Yep.
So
that is the information, yeah.
he was a real open, fast hooker, gritty, gnarly, good throwing into the line out, as you'd expect. But he's made this choice about 7 years ago, and he still loves his rugby. Now, I think I spoke to him, when did I speak to him? Last summer at one of the very few events, and he said, I'd still want to be a rugby player. I still want to be a top-end rugby player. So I think in the last couple of years, he's knuckled down, realised, what, I got a bit of talent, and it was unbelievable. There he is, look. Yeah. He's a great bloke.
I bet he doesn't wish he was rugby. Didn't he earn 500k last night?
500k, could have been more, right? He missed one dart for double 12 for a 9 dart. I think that would have given him an extra 100k or something. But the biggest thing for him is he becomes world number 1. And it takes 2 years for him to get to that. So you can imagine, Paul, endorsement, sponsorship, appearance, money, all of that now. I'm so pleased for him. He's such an ambassador, wears his heart on the sleeve. So well done to Gez.
Yeah, well done, Gerwyn.
I was really thinking that Paul had a secret past as a world number 1 at something there when you were teeing him up.
Oh man, do you know? I put out a little tweet last night. I'm not going to spend any time on it, but I was saying how difficult darts is, and I put it in the same bracket as snooker and golf. That to get to it just anywhere near a tidy standard, the learning curve is massive. It's not like tennis where you can play reasonably after 12 months. Darts, you could play for 2 years and still be averaging 35 with 3 darts. It's a horrible sport to play. Same as snooker.
I won the Carmarthen Boys Club darts league and knockout, under 12s, under 13s, under 14s. I was on fire.
Of course you did.
He's after a deal.
It was rare
from Winmow.
It was rare for them to let. It was rare for them to let a 50-year-old play. In fairness.
I shall send Adam the photo and we should put it on.
Very good.
Right. We did push a lot of comments down to the back end of the show when we were having a little more fun. Howell Davis, the Welsh derbies were the sort of game Sean would expect to see in the Gallagher Premiership.
Well, actually, normally I am moaning about that. They have improved. I watched Bristol, Newcastle, good game.
That was a good game.
The physicality in the Wasps Exeter Chiefs game was huge.
Yeah.
And for such a discrepancy in the score, it was a great game. I get perennially frustrated about Gloucester, one of my former clubs. I've said this to you, Paul, before, haven't I?
Yes.
Flat to deceive, never win anything. They go and spill the beans again against Sale at home.
Yeah.
So it's getting better.
You and Eubank, the Welsh derbies on Boxing Day that's for my Irish listeners, St. Stephen's Day, that's what we call it here. Were played in amber weather warning conditions. New Year's Day derby's not great, but I bet if they were tri-fests, The Welsh media would say they lacked intensity. There's
But
a
you
lot
know-
going on in that comment.
But he's right though, because I put in the column about, there was the first mention of my actual proper column.
Oh, it's taking an hour.
The Boxing Day matches were played under weather warnings, and it's this thing I'm always going on about. Can we just put the weather on the TV screen so people are at least aware why there are passes being dropped in midfield all the time?
Yeah, but New Year's Day, mate.
There was
New
New Year's Day is different.
Perfect rugby conditions. I
New
was
Year's
at
Day
Park
was
of
different.
Scarlet.
Yeah, it's blue skies.
I can see that. I could see a little thing. Even the arrow of where the wind's going at the time. That would be good.
It's basic
kicker.
stuff. I'm going to keep writing about it. I've said this is like my band-aid to Bob Geldof. I'm not going to stop until this is sorted.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. Seeing you whip the band-aid into the next column. Dean Purcell, are we finally seeing the slow rise of Zebre, decent against Benetton and growing into this season, 2 from 2 in Europe too? I'm saying yes. Zebre have had a couple of pumpings, right? No, they've had a lot of pumpings, right? But there's something there, right? There's definitely something there, and we saw this previously with Treviso. These things take a long time to build, and the Italian system is different. When we had earlier, we had loads of the guys from Dean Budd to McKinley to Keithley tell us about the differences in the systems that they have. They don't have a load of feeder clubs. It's not running the same way, so it's harder to build. There is something there I'm seeing with Zebre, Paul.
I think so. They've got, at least there's a spine of a team there now. We mentioned Viscetti earlier, and they've got a centre partnership in Boney and Maury. And I know half of those partnerships are really young, but that's how they always start, isn't it? And I think Ritzy played pretty well when he came on. His goal kicking was pretty solid. And that's what you need, a reasonable front row, 1 or 2 second rows, and 8 a centre and a full back. And you can, I just think
you can do some things if you have a spine.
You could do with a spine. If you've got a maul and it's a tiny bit of goal kicking and you defend well, like they did on the weekend, I think they made 168 tackles and only missed 13. That's like a Sean Edwards level of acceptable defending. So I think if they can carry on doing that, if you're not missing tackles, you're gonna be a lot harder to beat.
Okay, next up, James Reid. If I had a $5 for every time you boys go off in a referee about Six Nations summer weekends,
it is our thing, innit?
It's the Paul Williams special.
I just want it moved.
Robert Young, 1 for the Welsh lads. Steve Myler has been a great signing for the Sprays. How likely do we see him signing a 1-year extension? Sean Holley, you're not an agent for Steve Myler, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all, but I'm a big fan of a 90% plus goal kicker.
Yeah.
I think and you can do that when you're 35, 36.
That's the thing, isn't it? And he's never relied on speed. Like Steve Myler's never been like
the reason why he's only had 1 cap for England, isn't it? It's because he doesn't challenge the line. That frustrates me. But if you're buying time for Gareth Anscombe to come back, or you're buying time for a young kid to come through, or your next sign-in, he's perfect. Yeah. And even if you do, even if he doesn't play many games, he's good bench because you might need somebody to come off, and he's good in training because he's not expecting to play every week. He's an old campaigner. He can help with a kick in with hooky, and he can bring on some youngsters. So absolutely, Robert Young, absolutely.
Okay. Maybe Robert Young is the agent for Steve Myler.
Yeah.
Right.
Sean Holley said, yeah.
I think that's it for this week. We're looking forward to some good games. Leinster, Ulster, Cardiff Blues against Scarlets, Dragons, Ospreys, Connacht, Munster. And also, in case you missed it, the Italian Derby and the Scottish Derby, they've been switched back to this weekend. So they avoid travel. It's a nice piece of work of scheduling. We don't want to travel if we can help it right now. But like you say, we dream of the day when we can and do it again. Hold on, something's coming up. Yes, all those pictures are coming up on your screen right now. So Friday night, Leinster Ulster kickoff, and then we got all the rest of them coming on the.
That's hell of a good weekend of rugby. Look at the fixtures on there. You can't ask for any better than that.
You're actually jinxing this, aren't you? Williams, stop talking. We'll let it go. Right, here we go. That is a wrap for this week. Thank you, Sean Holley. Thank you, Paul Williams. Thank you, Adam Redmond in the background, still pumping through graphics even at the end of the show. Super work. Thank you, all of you. You've given us some of your time this evening, and if you're listening back, I hope the show listens well. Enjoy whatever version of lockdown you were in. I hope the rugby and their prattling helped you through it. That was Under the Sticks, brought to you by Pro14 Rugby. My name's Andy McGeady. We'll talk to you soon.
They call me cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. Ooh, cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. I